An intelligent man never says, "That's not my problem." At first glance, this statement may seem like a boundary-setting phrase, a way of compartmentalizing responsibility. But in reality, it reflects a deeper mindset, one that is dismissive, emotionally detached, and lacking in empathy. Intelligence, when rooted in integrity and emotional awareness, recognizes the interconnectedness of people, communities, and actions. A man who truly understands the world and his place in it does not turn a blind eye to the struggles of others. He does not create distance simply because he isn't directly affected. When someone says, "That's not my problem," they're often trying to avoid discomfort. It's a defense mechanism that helps them sidestep responsibility or emotional labor. But intelligent men understand that growth, leadership, and meaningful connection are born out of discomfort. When they see injustice, inefficiency, pain, or confusion, they do not retreat to self-preservation. They lean into the moment, ask questions, and explore how they might help, even if it doesn't directly impact them. They know that being human is not about isolation, but about stewardship. They don't carry every burden, but they do not ignore them either. This mindset also shows up in professional environments. The man who dismisses an issue because it's not his job reveals a lack of initiative, collaboration, and long-term vision. Intelligent men recognize that even when something falls outside their official responsibilities, it may still fall within their ethical or relational responsibilities. They look beyond the narrow frame of titles and roles. They think about how their actions or inactions affect the larger system. They understand that leadership isn't about control, it's about contribution. And contribution often means showing up where you're not obligated to, simply because it's the right thing to do. An intelligent man also knows the cost of emotional detachment. Saying, "That's not my problem," in relationships, whether personal or professional, creates distance. It communicates indifference. It signals to others that their experiences, their challenges, their feelings aren't worthy of concern unless they intersect directly with your own. That kind of message erodes trust, weakens connection, and fosters isolation. Intelligent men prioritize emotional presence. They may not fix every problem, but they make space for it. They validate others and they stay curious about how they might support rather than withdraw. There's also a subtle arrogance embedded in the phrase. It implies that unless something serves or involves you, it lacks importance. But intelligent men reject that kind of hierarchy. They understand that being a part of something bigger than themselves, family, team, community, means caring about things even when they're inconvenient, complicated, or uncomfortable. Intelligence doesn't create distance, it bridges it. It doesn't ask, "What's in it for me?" It asks, "How can I be of use?" It doesn't view empathy as weakness, it views it as wisdom in action. Even in moments of stress or overwhelm, when it might feel natural to deflect and disengage, intelligent men respond with self-awareness. They might set boundaries, but they do so with compassion. They acknowledge the reality of the situation without abandoning it. They don't say, "That's not my problem." They say, "I may not have the answer, but I'm here." They embody accountability, not because they're responsible for everything, but because they recognize that apathy is not a neutral stance, it's a decision with consequences. How one issue can ripple into another, a breakdown in communication within a team might not seem like your direct responsibility, but if left unchecked, it affects outcomes, morale, and cohesion. A friend's emotional struggle may not be your doing, but turning away can deepen their loneliness or silence. Intelligence involves the capacity to look beyond the surface and recognize how interconnected everything really is. The ability to empathize, respond, and act, even in small ways, is a defining trait of someone who sees the world clearly and responds with wisdom. It's not about carrying the weight of the world. It's about refusing to be indifferent to it. Intelligent men practice engaged awareness. They listen for the unsaid. They watch for the overlooked. They speak up when it's easier to be quiet. They act not out of obligation, but from a deep inner conviction that doing the right thing, even when it doesn't benefit them directly, is a marker of true strength. They don't measure intelligence by how much they know, but by how much they care, and how consistently they live out that care in both words and deed. There's something incredibly powerful about the words we choose, not just in how we express ourselves to others, but in what those words reveal about who we are inside: our values, our fears, our insecurities, and our confidence. Intelligent men, truly wise and grounded individuals, understand that silence can be strength, and that some words, once spoken, carry consequences far beyond the moment. They know that self-awareness isn't about having all the answers, but about knowing when not to speak. This isn't about sounding smart. It's about showing up with clarity, respect, and intention. Because what we choose not to say often defines us more than what we do say. An intelligent man never says, "I already know that." On the surface, it might seem like a harmless or even confident statement, but beneath it lies a mindset that is closed off from growth, unwilling to embrace the vulnerability of not knowing, and quick to trade humility for the illusion of certainty. Intelligence isn't measured by how much someone knows, but by how willing they are to keep learning, especially in the presence of others who might challenge their ideas or offer new perspectives. When someone says, "I already know that," they shut the door on curiosity. And curiosity is the lifeblood of intelligence. This phrase often comes from a place of defensiveness. It's a shield, a reflex that protects the ego from feeling inadequate or exposed. But a truly intelligent man doesn't fear being wrong or unfamiliar with something. He welcomes it. He understands that every conversation is an opportunity to learn something new, even if he's heard it before. Because the way someone else explains it, the context in which it's said, or the emotional undertone behind it might reveal something previously overlooked. Repetition isn't redundancy, it's reinforcement. And sometimes it's revelation. There's also something deeply relational about resisting the impulse to declare, "I already know that." It's a signal to others that you're present, that their voice matters, and that you're not just listening to respond, but listening to understand. When a man interrupts someone to assert his knowledge, it often shifts the tone of the conversation from connection to competition. But when he leans in with openness, even when he's familiar with the topic, he demonstrates emotional intelligence, patience, and mutual respect. It's not about pretending to be ignorant. It's about choosing connection over ego. Intelligence thrives in humility. The most brilliant minds in the world, the scientists, thinkers, philosophers, creators, didn't reach their greatness by cutting off the flow of information with arrogance. They kept asking questions. They remained students even after becoming experts. And an intelligent man models that same spirit in everyday life. He knows that someone else's experience, no matter how basic it may seem, might hold a lesson he's yet to understand. He's not afraid to admit there's always more to learn because he doesn't see that as a threat to his identity. It's a foundation of it. There's also a psychological cost to always needing to appear knowledgeable. It creates a kind of internal pressure, a fear of being seen as less than, of not measuring up. But intelligence is not about perfection. It's about adaptability, resilience, and growth. Saying, "I already know that," might feel like control, but it's often a sign of insecurity. A man secure in his intelligence doesn't need to prove it with every sentence. He lets his curiosity and willingness to learn speak louder than his pride. Children have this incredible ability to stay wide-eyed in every moment. They ask questions relentlessly, not because they don't know things, but because they're hungry to know more. Somewhere along the way, as adults, many of us lose that hunger in the name of appearing competent. But an intelligent man rekindles that flame. He allows himself to be curious. He asks, "Tell me more." He says, "That's interesting. How did you come to that conclusion?" He invites others into deeper dialogue, not because he's lacking, but because he values what collaboration and shared insight can create. There's also something powerful in being teachable. When you let go of needing to be the most informed person in the room, you open yourself up to relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and growth. A teachable spirit doesn't mean you're uninformed. It means you're wise enough to know that even the sharpest mind has blind spots. And when you stop leading with, "I already know that," you give yourself permission to discover more than you imagined. You also create a space where others feel safe to share their knowledge, ideas, and experiences without fear of being dismissed or overshadowed. It's not about pretending you're starting from scratch every time. It's about holding space for others, honoring their voice, and choosing the posture of a learner, even when you could choose the pedestal of a knower. An intelligent man knows the weight of his words. He understands that his value doesn't diminish when someone else teaches him something new. In fact, his value is often amplified by his ability to listen deeply, reflect honestly, and grow continuously. When he resists the temptation to shut down a moment with, "I already know that," he opens the door to deeper understanding, stronger connections, and lasting personal evolution.